As a content creator, you may be surprised to find that I sometimes do read manga. I know, you wouldn't be able to tell from the fact of how stupid I sound most of the time. But while most of it is good, what I read, quite a lot of it is either too young to be suitable for content to be made on it, or simply am not obsessed enough with it to cover it here on my channel. You've probably noticed this channel mostly runs on me being a weirdo about things. But that doesn't mean that these series don't deserve some lovin'. Way back, I already did a manga recommendation video, but the series on the thumbnail got cancelled like a month later and I am legitimately still upset, so it's taken me this long to do another one. But this time, in order to really raise the excitement, I want to recommend you 3 very new and relatively unknown series from the Jump lineup. Any one of these could be the next hit, or it could get cancelled next week. Who knows? I definitely don't. Let's start with the youngest manga in this video, The Hunter's Guild Red Hood by Yuki Kawaguchi. With only 3 chapters out as of writing of this video, there is little to go off of besides the most basic premise. In a world heavily inspired by the fairy tales of the Brother Grimm, a young boy named Velu works hard to defend his village from the various beasts that prowl the night, including the likes of the nightmarish werewolves. When he meets an experienced huntress named Grimm and crisis strikes, he is offered the choice. Will he join the Hunter's Guild and enlist in the fight against the fairy tale fiends? If you find yourself looking at these pages and thinking, wow, this looks kind of familiar, then there are probably 1 or 2 reasons why. Red Hood ran as a one-shot in Jump around a year or so ago and it was quite well received, so you might have seen it around there. And of course, Yuki Kawaguchi was an assistant to My Hero Academia's Koi Horikoshi, so the familiarity might stem from that since he probably absorbed some of his art style. In fact, if I had to describe the art, I'd say it's the physicality from My Hero Academia mixed with the bold lighting and full black uses of Chainsaw Man, and it definitely gives the series a unique yet familiar look. I am in particular fond of the series' monster designs. When you think of a werewolf, most of the designs you would probably think of feature humanoid canines and otherwise familiar shapes. Here, however, a concept so well known and ubiquitous is flipped on its head, as here werewolves are these horrifying eldritch monsters with no real resemblance to, well, anything. And yet, they still look somewhat goofy and funny, giving them a feel that's somewhere between Fable and H.R. Geiger. The story, while not really developed as of yet, for obvious reasons, also has some cool hooks. As an avid Monster Hunter and Witcher fan, the idea of a series focused on the hunting and eliminating of various mystical creatures is by itself an easy sell for me, but what I appreciate here is that instead of going for a more traditionally cool or gritty universe, Red Hood commits to the infamously whiplashing works of the Grimms, which went from dark folklore mythoses to Disney stories in the modern conception. And I think it's this disjointed history within the setting that makes for some really affecting and interesting potential. It also helps that, so far, the powers in the story are incredibly subdued. We get some cool insight in how wolf biology works in the sense of the werewolves, with their muscle fibers growing and regenerating faster, but the humans tend to use weapons and magical artifacts, at least that's how it seems so far, and that can make for a pretty cool and interesting fighting system, but obviously that's something that we're gonna have to see. But if you want a lunchbox quote, essentially, imagine The Witcher, but Geralt of Rivia is stacked. But maybe titties aren't what you're after. Maybe you are a more wholesome person than I am. Maybe you just want to have some fun and look at cute stuff. Well, in that case, this next recommendation might be for you. Written by Kento Shinohara, whom you may know as the author of Astra Lost in Space, Witch Watch is a lighthearted slice-of-life rom-com which follows a witch named Nico on her daily magical adventures in her daily grind of urban Japanese school life. She's accompanied by her ogre protector Moi, for whom she slowly develops tender feelings. The series, in turn, follows their shenanigans as it asks the question, will they or won't they? This setup is very light, and it very much is by design. This isn't a grand narrative about good or evil, nor about the darkness lurking in the human heart. This is, as blatantly as it gets, a sweet and fun story about 2 people slowly growing closer to each other while some magical shit happens once in a while. Don't get me wrong, there is a narrative, and as of the latest few chapters we even started getting some sick-ass lore and even a villain. But to be honest with you, none of this is why you read Witch Watch. No, you read Witch Watch in order to watch this straight-faced jackass and this ditzy walking house of wonders attempt to start a YouTube channel and miserably failing. This series consists mostly of one-off episodic chapters where the gang encounters a problem, Nico uses magic to solve it, and Moi disapproves. And because of this cycle, some parts are obviously going to be better than others, but overall it has more hits than misses. And when it does focus on the central romance, it is so good. Shinohara has a good grasp on how to do character cadence, the rhythm with which characters approach each other and slowly prod each other's feelings and temptations. And it's made more interesting by the fact that every character within this series has a very specific personality. Nico is almost picture perfectly a rom-com protagonist. She is ditzy, she is cute, and she's just waiting to fall in love. But that is counteracted with Moi, who is basically empty of all feelings, or at least he wants you to think that is. And then you get all the other side characters who are either an eccentric wannabe YouTuber who thinks he's the shit while having 80 subs, I was there, or their Tengu friend who just hates the fuck out of Moi. It's a lot of fun stuff like that, and it ends up being pretty entertaining and interesting. You know what else is interesting? History! Okay, look, good segues are really expensive, so shut the fuck up! Anyway, today's final recommendation deals with just that, as The Elusive Samurai by Yusei Matsui swings into the pages with a boatload of historical references to the Japan of the 14th century. Born into the Hojo shogunate of Japan, Tokiyuki's life is thrown into chaos as a family friend usurps the shogunate and kills his entire clan. On the run with a few of his retainers and an eccentric priest/mentor, Toki must now rise up and retake the throne that was stolen from him. Only problem? He hates fighting. Toki is basically useless as everything except dodging and running away. Will he be able to nonetheless take on the inhumanly charismatic usurper Kawaguchi and bring peace back to the shogunate? As is to be expected from the author of Assassination Classroom, this series' premise is as grand as it is ridiculous. Taking a historical revenge story and giving it the twist of the protagonist being garbage might not immediately seem enticing, but the appeal of the series comes from the various ways in which the fights happen around this restriction. Toki cannot win in a conventional battle, so the series tries its hardest to redefine how we think of fights as a concept itself. Can retreat be part of a hype shonen fight? Is backing down actually an ultimate move? Weird queries like these make this a really fun offering from the Shonen Jump lineup, and while some of the characters aren't as fleshed out as I would like them to be, the series remains entertaining throughout its run thus far. Add to this some really cool art, especially regarding the villains, and you're left with a strong and unique contender of this year's Jump titles. The priest guy is basically this series' version of Koro-sensei, and while he is nowhere near as fun, it is nonetheless cool to see Matsui try and recapture that magic. Whether or not he will continuously succeed at this is left to be seen. And there you have it. 3 manga from the current Shonen Jump lineup that you can read right now and that I would say you should read. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, a special thank you to all our patrons. Daniel Garcia, Fiction Ape, Cini, Victor Perez, Cesar Londono, Trader, Ignis, Mr. Meander, and Paracha, of course being the big shout out boys. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you around. Bye bye.